You had to debate that with yourself for 5 or 10 minutes.
Because I wasn't drinking 10.4% alcohol. Welcome back to the show. I'm Rob. I'm here with Mike and Joe. This is the Hogs, Hops, and Hope podcast. Hot takes, cold beers, zero credentials. The regular season is over.
We made it a
Finally.
whole season.
I didn't think we'd ever survive the season, quite honestly. And I'll tell you exactly how I got through it. I got through it with therapist, Imperial IPA. This is from Dust Bowl Brewing Company in Turlock, California. It says, turn it wrong side up responsibly. And for those of you keeping score at home, 10.4% on the alcohol scale, 19-ounce can. I need this for the season we just had. What are you all drinking?
I'll go. I'm taking a page from Joe's book. I got the garage beer. I finally went and picked up some garage beer to try out. So
All right.
nowhere near 10% alcohol. Got a nice 4% light beer. So I can drink more of them.
Joe, what you
I
got?
went back with old reliable Miller Lite.
All right.
The season ended in disappointment, so should my beer.
Well,
I'm just
I
kidding.
guess
If Miller Lite wants to sponsor the show,
I was
I'll
gonna
drink the
say,
shit out of that.
they're not going to sponsor us now.
No. It's kind of contrast from the start of the season. Joe had his double fisting after the first win and with the celebratory shot way back when after beating the Giants in week one.
God,
Yeah,
that was a lifetime ago, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it wasn't it though. So obviously no show last week after Washington lost to the Cowboys 30-23, and then they had Eagles in the last week this last weekend, and they beat the Eagles 24-17. If we had had a show, I think we all would have actually quite possible. Well, I would have predicted them to beat Philly. Maybe you guys wouldn't have. Mike, you probably wouldn't have because you knowing that Josh Johnson was going to start at quarterback and all that.
I I would have probably said that their second string quarterback could beat our third string quarterback. So
um, but this is the game that we had all said earlier in the season as we were getting closer that this was a game we thought they could win if Philly was resting their starters.
Right.
Of course, we probably all thought at that point that Washington would have most of its starters playing, and that was certainly not the case. So regular season's over. Washington goes from 12-5 to 5-12. You have to be very talented to do that. They ended up with they're going to have the 7th overall pick in the draft next year. And we'll have plenty of time to talk about that. But I guess my first question to you all, before we really maybe I don't know what we're going to talk about on the show. We never do prep, in case you couldn't tell.
in case that wasn't clear.
I mean, I have some ideas, but my first question to you all, and Mike, we're going to go to you first, is looking back at the whole of the season. What is there a positive that stands out for you, or what's the biggest negative? Because I know there's plenty of negatives. We know that because of the way the season went. But is there a positive that stands out, one or the other? Is there something you got that just makes you say, yeah, this was the season for me?
Honestly, that's tough to see right now. Um, a positive this season.
Well, you don't have to give me a positive if you don't see one. If there's if maybe what's the biggest negative, if that stood out to you, okay, look, I'll throw out some things like you look
Okay.
at all the negatives from this season. Obviously, the injuries come
Sure.
right to the forefront. This team battled injuries like nobody's business. You can look at the coaching that went sideways with Dan Quinn taking over play calling on the defense. We could look at not the younger players not getting as much of a chance to play when the season was kind of over and trying to evaluate what the team might actually have. That type of thing. If it's the positives, was it the Tunsil trade? Was it the Debo trade? Things like that, or was it Bill having a good season? That type,
Yeah. So, I mean,
something
look,
like that.
there were glimmers of positives, things that I liked. I liked Bill at periods throughout the season. I think Rodriguez definitely improved over the season. I think where I struggle to sort of talk to positives is at the end of the day, it's the results. I mean, Mariota,
Yeah,
he did a good job stepping in. We're kind of lucky to have had someone like him to be able to step in when Jaden was out. But
right.
at the end of the day, we still lost 12 games. So it's hard to, that's why I struggle with the positives.
Right.
Um, and yeah, negative, when you say, the first thing that popped in my mind is injuries. And yes, that's a negative, but that happens. So that's something the team has to overcome. So,
Right.
you know, you can't control that. So I don't know. It's tough to reflect back on. I had more, and look, I know we talked, we all thought they'd get 10 wins. How funny is
Yeah.
that? But I think when we talked about, I guess where I'm struggling is we talked about like what would make for a good season, knowing they were going to win less games and would be seeing progress and things like that. I don't think we saw that, but then also with all those injuries and the sort of chaos that went on, it's hard to even be able to see that or to have that.
Okay. Yeah. Joe, you got it. What are your thoughts?
I think, I guess one positive thing we had was I thought our offensive line looks fairly good through the majority of the season.
Okay.
So maybe that was our
You,
only
you, you
glimmer
mean
of,
maybe better than you expected, or just
well, I think when we were talking in the offseason, we knew that was a weak point and we needed to address it. We addressed it, and I thought what we did was good results.
okay?
So I don't know what I would say my expectation was for the offensive line, but I'm happy with what, for the most part, what we did. I agree with
Okay.
Mike. The running situation was pretty good. Bill did decent at times, and Rodriguez was
Right.
doing well. So run game looked good. Offensive line looked pretty good. Tight end position looked decent at times. But the negatives is just, well, the defense was awful, and the injuries, which
Yeah.
if we had planned better and had better depth and better backup players, we could have maybe overcome some of those injuries. So from a negative standpoint, I mean, the injuries are what you said, Rob. They're the forefront of our problems, but we should have been better prepared. The coaches should have been better prepared.
Or does that even go back to Adam Peters? Because Adam Peters is the one who
Well,
built the roster.
he definitely deserves some of the blame for sure,
Okay.
if not all of it. But again, we were, the oldest team in the league. We knew this.
Yep.
We've been saying this right along, and we've been trying to piecemeal together a team for the past 2 years, and now we need to build the team properly. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it
You
goes,
know,
I guess.
I think you hit it right on the head with that last statement that we need to build the team properly, and that's what we didn't do. We didn't do that this season. I mean, that goes
No.
back to the Lattimore trade. They decided that they needed to try and win now, and that's why they traded for Lattimore. That's why they traded for Tunsil. That's why they traded for Debo.
But
And
in their defense, let's play devil's advocate for a second. 2 years ago, when we were getting towards the end of the season, it's like, wait, we have a magical season going right now. We could win this. Let's do it for the now. I think,
well, that was the trade for Lattimore. Absolutely.
yes. And then it was like, okay, we were so close 2 seasons ago now, right? Like,
Well,
one season ago.
in the last offseason, yeah, we were so close because we got to the NFC Championship game. But
Right.
but I don't think, look, we're three knuckleheads. if we can see certain things, then the experts, those with credentials, as we like to say, should be able to see certain things. And looking at this team with a high turnover again, and still a young quarterback and a 500 coach, you have to wonder, and then having to play a tough schedule, because in 2024 we had it the second easiest schedule. Well, now in 2025 we're going to have a tough schedule. Like Mike, you said it. We knew or predicted, however you want to phrase it, that this team would have fewer wins than they had last season. We said that to a T, all three of us. And even when we said that we thought
So
the
we
team
got it
would
right.
get 10 wins, we
Close.
were, it wasn't like, 10 wins, absolutely 100%. It was, we can do 10 wins.
But we also said if it's less than 10 wins, it doesn't mean it's a bad season if there's the growth, the progress, things like that. And
Right.
that's what didn't happen. It goes to what you said about building a team correctly and all of that. Because let's be honest, even the few things we point out that maybe were positives, there's going to be so much change in this offseason that it's a different team coming in next year. So you're not building with small building block, little tweaks here and there. It's, I don't know, what do we have? 20
Well,
something?
so
It's all those
there's,
one-year contracts.
I believe there are like 30 or somewhere between 30 and 35 players that are technically under contract for next season.
Okay.
But that includes people like Lattimore, who there's no way Lattimore is going to be on the team next year. So, but he's technically under contract for next season. You look at Brian Robinson. You guys talked about the rushing game and that. Brian Robinson is a restricted free agent. I think at this point.
Robinson?
Robinson.
Sorry. Rodriguez.
Rodriguez.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I was reading a tweet about Robinson earlier today because someone was like, Robinson did this and Bill did this. I'm like, yeah, so what's your point? Like, whatever. But sorry. You know what I meant. It starts with an RO, whatever. For all I know, Rob was a freaking running back this year. We're going to go through the exact same thing. We're going to have a high turnover. And we even talked about this in the preseason, that there's going to be high turnover because why? 1-year contracts. And so that leads to, well, I'll say it because I just rambled off things. I think the biggest disappointment this year was the coaching, quite honestly, because I think a lot of times this team was not prepared to win or be in a position to win. And the backup players, whether they were the backups in an active roster or the people that they were bringing in from the practice squad or what have you, were not prepared to play. And that, to me, that goes to coaching. And yes, Joe, it does also go to Adam Peters. But I think the coaching was a major fail this year.
Well, and apparently you're not the only one that felt that way.
Right, because that was going to be my next thing. Is we found out yesterday that Joe Whitt, defensive coordinator, was let go, which is not a surprise to anybody because he already had his responsibilities taken away from him. But the bigger surprise was that Kliff Kingsbury was let go. And I won't ask you how you all feel about Joe Whitt being gone. Because I think I know how you feel about that. But Joe, we'll go to you first on this. Kliff Kingsbury, he's gone. Some say it's kind of a mutual decision type of thing, one way or the other, because if I remember correctly, he was getting paid his coach's salary from when he was head coach at Arizona, and I think that ended now. So he's no longer getting head coach pay in addition to his offensive coordinator pay. And there's speculation that he didn't mind leaving because maybe he wants to find a head coaching job, maybe partly for the money. So my question to you, Joe, and then Mike, you'll follow, is how do you feel about the team letting Kliff go? Don't worry about who's going to replace him or anything like that. But how do you feel about him no longer being offensive coordinator?
I'm going to say it simply. I'm a little bummed. I was,
Okay.
for the most part, happy with what he was doing, and it was nice. Some of the plays we were seeing, it was different, and it played to Jaden's strength when he was playing, and we were moving the ball, and I was a little surprised by it. Now,
Okay.
what I don't like is I'm seeing reports of unnamed sources are saying that there was some beef between DQ and him, and it's like, oh my
Yeah.
God, are we really doing this again? Like I thought, new ownership, new regime, new everything. We were gonna
No.
get rid of the backstabbing bullshit,
Nope.
and it's like, oh no, here we go. And I I don't know what's going on. I didn't think it was related to his money situation that he
Well,
was
that's
mutually
speculation
going,
on
but
my part. That's pure
yeah,
speculation on my part that it could be financially related for him on why he doesn't mind leaving. That's speculation on my part.
it just I don't know. It sucked seeing whatever the unnamed sources were saying, where it was just that Dan was expecting different play style for Jaden, and I guess Kliff wasn't calling it the way he wanted it to. I don't know, whatever the hell it was. I was disappointed to see him go. And it sucks because I like consistency. I like seeing same players growing. I like seeing the coaches growing and bonding with the players and making good decisions and moving forward and progressing and this and that. And I feel like if you're changing offenses every couple of years or coaches every couple of years or players every couple of years,
Yes.
when the hell are you going to establish a game and a team that can win?
All right. So you're bummed, Mike. Thoughts?
I'm not surprised. I think there's been so much talk about him being in line for a head coaching position and probably interviewing in the offseason anyway. I would have liked to see him stick around. So I guess, yeah, I'm a little bummed. But like I said, not surprised. And I don't know, maybe I'm sure he'd like to go be a head coach again. There's obviously going to be opportunities for that. So from his
Yes.
perspective, maybe it is let me get out of there. And maybe the team, I don't know, I'll take the optimistic view that if this becomes a thing where he's under contract with us, but people want to talk to him about head coach, they're like, let's get rid of the distraction, clean break. We had a 5-12 season. Makes sense to move on from him too. Just let it go and get that noise out of there. So we're not talking about that in this off season.
Okay.
80, I mean, probably not, but Joe's
Well,
probably right. There's some
yeah.
discord.
So I'm with you all. I'm bummed. But I think uh, I have even stronger feelings about it. That I'm more bummed, I guess is maybe the way to say that, because I liked Kliff when they signed him and they brought him in. There was all the talk last season that, oh, Washington was doing so well that Kliff could leave after one season and go be a head coach somewhere, and it was such a big deal that he came back for a second season. I think uh, I think what he did with Jaden is great. I know Jaden loves playing for him. He said that on the record. He said that at the end of the season. I mean, of course, I don't expect players to normally come out and badmouth a coach anyway, because that just shows a bad sign. So I wouldn't have expected Jaden to come out and say, I hated him. He was the worst coach I've ever played for. But, uh, everyone else likes to harp on, oh, well, they said this good thing about him, so I will say that. Uh, Joe, what you were talking about with the uh, maybe some conflict or what have you, the original story was that Kliff had Kliff had a conflict with Adam Peters, and that was the original story that came out.
Oh,
And maybe that uh, Adam Peters wasn't happy that some of the younger players weren't getting playing time, and so you kind of question that. But then I think it was John Gruden came out and said, and I'm going to paraphrase here, that he basically called BS because he said a coordinator would never talk to the GM. The GM will talk to the head coach, and the head coach will talk to the coordinator. So he doesn't believe that there was a conflict, you know, a visible conflict between Adam Peters and Kliff Kingsbury. Now, maybe Adam Peters didn't like him, I don't know, or maybe Kliff didn't like Adam. That may be true, but there would be no conflict there because they shouldn't be talking to each other. As far as the conflict between Dan Quinn and Kliff Kingsbury, yeah, Joe, I was reading probably some of the same stuff you were reading, and that the conflict comes from Dan Quinn wants more of a running game, and Kliff isn't calling the type of game that he would like. Okay, and that's fair. If that's the case, then Kliff Kingsbury shouldn't be the offensive coordinator for Dan Quinn. But then I asked that right away, I go to, who the hell hired Kliff Kingsbury?
Yeah.
And did you not know who he was and what kind of play calling he did? Because if you hired him knowing who he is and what he does, and then you're firing him because he doesn't do what you want to do, you're an idiot. And if you didn't know how he was going to call the game and you hired him anyway, you're even more of an idiot. So it comes back to Dan Quinn being an idiot. And I'm sorry, no one seemed to have a problem last year when Kliff was calling the games and the team went 12-5.
Also, Quinn wanted more. I mean, look, I know Jaden got hurt, but we've got Jaden Daniels and we're going to run the ball more. I don't know. That seems weird to me. That's the conflict. And if he just, the other thing I keep is, as we're talking about it, I'm like, if he blatantly, Quinn is saying, this is what I want to do, and Kingsbury is just sitting back saying, F you, old man, I'm going to do what I want to do. Like, it just feels weird that this blows up now and these things come out right now.
But well, of course, everything comes out at the end of a bad season, right? I mean, look,
Yeah.
we've experienced it doing this show. You know, we've said it multiple times. We picked the wrong season to start a podcast, right? We've everything goes wrong, and what do? Well, I don't think we overly badmouthed the team, but we didn't have a whole lot of good things to say throughout the season.
There weren't a whole, yeah, there wasn't much to talk about.
So, I think for me, it goes back to Dan Quinn not being a good head coach, quite honestly. And to everybody who's poo-pooed on me for the last 2 years, I'm sorry. What's Dan Quinn's record in Washington now? 500? What did I say it was? 500 coach?
That's correct. Yes, you did. You've said it many
thank
times.
You. And it took them beating the Eagles, who were resting all their starters, to do it.
Correct.
All right. So, and they also fired their offensive line coach. So, Joe, you were talking about the offensive line earlier, and that might have been a little bit of a surprise at how well they played together. And they had some injuries. Obviously, they had a lot of injuries. I mean, they went through a couple different lineup changes throughout the season, partly because Cosme was out to begin the season, but then he came back, and then it was Tunsil was hurt for a while. And the last game, Biotish was actually on injured reserve. So, Allegretti had to play center. Allegretti was playing some guard, and there was a switch between Coleman to Paul at left guard. And so what did they do? They fired their offensive line coach. And so now we're going to go into next season with a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator, or some other defensive coach, because there's still the possibility that Dan Quinn calls defensive plays next year. A new offensive line coach with an offensive line that could be in flux because Chris Paul may be gone. He's a free agent. Tunsil is in the last year of his contract, which means for an NFL player, you have to now start fighting for a new contract, which means he could hold out, and that could cause problems. But I just, the Kliff thing, I don't like. I'm not. It doesn't matter whether I agree with it or not, obviously, but I don't think that was a smart move. Jaden Daniels is now going to have a new offensive coordinator, and who are you going to hire? Because you got to hire someone that tailors their game plan to Jaden Daniels. But Joe, you said you talked about Kliff Kingsbury. I mean, I talked about him maybe wanting to be a head coach. There's the speculation is from the odds makers, he's the odds-on favorite to go to Cleveland. Some have also speculated him going to Baltimore as the head coach, since Jaden Daniels always gets compared to Lamar Jackson. So that might be a good place for Kliff to fit in. Personally, I think he could go to Oakland, or not Oakland, Vegas, Raiders. The Raiders have the first pick overall. They're going to pick a quarterback. You saw what Kliff Kingsbury did with Jaden Daniels in his first year, so why not go to Vegas? But he's no longer our problem or our concern because he's no longer an employee of the team. So we don't care, I guess.
How long do you think it's going to take for them to find the new coordinators?
Well, the interesting thing to me was that the reports are that Washington wouldn't have done something without a plan.
That would be a shock. Like, that would be something so original for them. Yeah, if they had a plan, that would be incredibly shocking to me. That'd be crazy.
Okay, well, so here's the thing. So Nikki Javala from The Athletic, she wrote an article today, and she's talking about the fact that Washington fired both their coordinators, right? So she listed some people that could fill both those positions. So we're talking about offensive coordinator because the defensive coordinator could fall into Dan Quinn's lap. For offensive coordinator, David Blau, and right now he's the assistant quarterbacks coach. He's learned from Kevin O'Connell, Ben Johnson, Kingsbury. He was a quarterback in the league 3 or 4 years ago. He has a really good rapport with Jaden Daniels, and he's the Jets tried to interview him, and Washington blocked that a year ago. So he's someone, but that's a big jump going from assistant quarterbacks coach to offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
The other people they
He's
listed
currently
were Brian. Yeah, I'm sorry.
He's currently the coach on our team.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So it's just a promotion for him.
But that's a big promotion from QB coach to offensive coordinator.
Well, look at Golden Boy Sean McVay. He went from tight ends coach, right, to offensive coordinator to head coach. Is that right?
I don't know. I don't care about him. He doesn't play for the team or coach for the team. The
Not
other
anymore.
people
He
they
used
had.
to.
Well, so speaking of Sean McVay, one of the other people that Nikki listed was Mike LaFleur, who's the Rams offensive coordinator. And he's part of the Mike Shanahan tree, as it were. And he was an offensive assistant for Dan Quinn when he was in Atlanta. And he was also in San Francisco when Adam Peters was there. So we know how people always have to look for these connections. So you're looking for connections to Dan Quinn and Adam Peters. So Mike LaFleur would fall into that. Another person is Brian Daboll, the former coach of the Giants, who was an offensive coordinator for Buffalo for 4 years, and he helped develop Josh Allen. So he's someone that's on this short list, according to Nikki. And then Davis Webb, who's the Denver Broncos offensive pass game coordinator and QB's coach. He's played 2 career games in the NFL before switching to coaching. Obviously they can't talk to anybody on the Rams staff and they can't talk to anybody on Denver staff right now because they're in the playoffs. They would have to get permission. I don't think anything's going to be filled right off the bat unless they go with Brian Daboll or they just promote someone from within, because you can do that obviously. But if someone's involved in the playoffs, that's you have to wait for that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's good, if they're going to solve that problem right off the bat or not. Defensive coordinators is the same. I mean, a lot of people started throwing out Raheem Morris, who was the coach of Atlanta and got fired because he worked with Dan Quinn in Atlanta. But I don't know if that's the right move or not. I mean, he was what did he do with Dan Quinn? He took over for Dan Quinn when Dan Quinn was fired in Atlanta. Mwah, mwah. Uh,
Word.
he was a defensive coordinator for the Rams from 2021 to 23 and won a Super Bowl with them. Then there's Jeff Ulbrich, who's the Falcons defensive coordinator. And who else we got? Al Harris is the Bears secondary coach and defensive pass game coordinator. And then Patrick Graham, who they actually asked permission to talk to, he's the Raiders defensive coordinator. And then the last one was Brian Flores, who's the Minnesota Vikings defensive coordinator. So, who knows who they're going to get for these? Dan Quinn's going to have to decide if he wants to be a play caller or not. If he's a play caller, then we're not going to have Raheem Morris or anything like that. And I guess time will tell with these coordinator positions. But
I'm kind of hoping that DQ takes a step back and is not the coordinator and the play caller. I mean, I think he did a decent job when he took over, but I just feel like the head coach needs to be more just like the CEO, just running things and telling people, barking orders and not getting into the nitty gritty, and let the coordinators do their job and let them handle the play calling and the schemes and the coaching up and all that. And I think that's how the team should be set up.
I agree. And that's the way the team was supposed to be. But Joe Whitt was so incompetent that they had they had to make a change. I mean,
understandable.
But that's the bottom line there. So I don't know what else they could do with that. And look, it's funny. I've said all along since Dan Quinn was hired that he had 3 years of guaranteed safety, that he would not be fired before he completed 3 years of coaching in Washington. And there were already some people who said he should be fired now.
Mm-hmm.
But he won't be because if Adam Peters fired Dan Quinn at this point, that would be Adam Peters saying, I totally fucked up and I had no idea what I was doing. And he's not going to do that. So Dan Quinn's got another year to figure this out. And I guess
personally, I'm okay with that. I know you haven't really been on the Dan Quinn bandwagon. That's fine, but I'm okay with it. He give him this other year. He probably gets 2 years out of it, really, with bringing in new coordinators. And so long as the team doesn't go like 0-6 to next season,
I think they can't go 5-12 again. I think.
No, but I mean, I think he'd be able to finish the season next year, unless they went like 0-6 or 0-7.
Right. He's going to finish the season. I think he'll finish the season. It's Joe. I mean, yeah, I'm not a Dan Quinn fan. That's not a secret.
Yeah.
But I've said all along that when he was hired, he had 3 years of guaranteed employment. Period. Yep. Because Adam Peters would not fire him before that because it would make him look like an idiot.
Sure.
So, if it was a more experienced GM, then maybe Dan Quinn would be gone as well. But Adam Peters is not going to do it because this is his first go around.
And we just have to see what happens next. We got to see what coordinators they bring in and what players we bring in that Peters brings in. And I mean, I don't know. We're starting over.
Again.
So this was a wasted year. And not because of injuries, but because of the way the team was built. I'm going to go back to Joe. Joe, I want to go back to you because you brought it up. Adam Peters. Now, he's only been on the job for 2 years. But how much confidence do you have in him right now as a GM?
Well, it's less than it was at the beginning of the year, but I haven't given up on him.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, he has a lot of the blame for building this team the way it is.
Well, he built it. He has all the blame.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just watching we said it already. The coaching was terrible this year.
Right.
So it's like, I mean, is it the coaches aren't getting the players ready or the players aren't good enough to be coached? And if the players aren't good enough to be coached, it's Adam Peters. If the coaches aren't doing their jobs, it's coaches.
Well, it's both. In my opinion, it's both.
So we're making a change. We're getting rid of the coaches that we know we're having issues, and now we see if Adams.
Well, we're getting rid of
the entire.
We're getting
problem.
rid of one coach who we know he had issues,
right?
But I don't know. I haven't seen anybody say that Kliff had issues.
Yeah. But I'm going to answer the question. I have no confidence in Adam Peters. I mean, going back to the offseason, I didn't like this win now attitude of, you know, sign guys to try to win quickly. I just didn't feel like that was going to work out. We should have been building a team around Jaden, and we didn't do that. So now, and the whole thing was, yes, the great season and, win now. Jaden's doing great, blah, blah, blah. We got to capitalize on his rookie contract. Well, guess what? Now we've burned 2 years of his rookie contract and we're still back at, square one as far as I'm concerned. So, and if we had, I don't know, maybe put more effort into developing younger guys and we maybe not superstar strength, but we might have had, I don't know, we might have had some guys that were hungry to get out there and fucking win a job and might have stepped up behind some of these injuries. So yeah, I'm out on Adam Peters, honestly.
But the younger players not playing is the fault of the coaches, right?
Yes.
But what younger players well, okay.
Well,
no, I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. Like, we definitely needed the younger players to be stepping in and give them the opportunity. I do agree with you on that. But if we're trying to figure out where the problem is, if it's Peters or if it's coaches, the coaches aren't letting the young players play.
That's fair, because I am more of a my frustration is that we've given away draft picks going forward, so we're not going to be able to draft in higher rounds these younger guys that would be able to step into these things. So that's fair.
Well, yeah. Okay, so you guys have hit on two different things here because, train of thought is going away. 10.3% is there. 10.4% is not good. But Adam Peters is getting these younger players. So when we look, the prime example that people like to throw out is at linebacker. McGee, everyone wanted to see McGee play because they talked about how fast he was, how quick he was, how great he was. But he couldn't get playing time because Bobby Wagner was there. And some have said, and I will include myself in this, that the reason that Bobby Wagner was getting so much playing time is because Dan Quinn was trying to get him to 2,000 career tackles, which he barely got in the last game of the season. And that's why he was playing so much. That under normal circumstances, as great as Bobby Wagner has been in his career, and he still had a good year as far as I'm concerned, there are a lot of times when he was on the field when he should not have been on the field. And you need a young player like McGee. He's a fifth-round draft pick. He's got potential. He needs to be on the field playing so we can see what we've got with him. It's the same thing with the receivers. You keep bringing in all these receivers. Well, they drafted McCaffrey. Now, I know McCaffrey got hurt, but he wasn't getting a whole lot of playing times. Sinnott, not getting playing time. He was a second-round draft pick. Why is he not getting playing time? And if it's because he's not developing, then that's on the coach. If he wasn't good to begin with, then that's on Adam Peters. So both things can be true, that it's Adam Peters, as Mike was saying, who didn't prepare, who didn't get good players. And Joe, you even touched on that yourself, was saying that the depth was not there. That's Adam Peters for not getting players that can be ready to perform. And I said that as well. But the coaches have to be able to try and coach these players up, which they weren't doing. And they weren't playing younger players, which they should have been doing for a team that is trying to rebuild. And that's what this team is, regardless of what they did last year. This team is still in rebuild mode. Mike, you kind of touched on that without saying it exactly, but this team is rebuilding. And this season, with the moves they made and the poor coaching, has set this team back not to square one. I think they're worse off than they were at the beginning of 2024. And the pessimist really comes out. I mean, that's because Debo's not. I don't think Debo's going to be back next year, so that becomes a wasted draft pick. Now it's a fifth-round draft pick, but still, it's a wasted draft pick. Tunsil, he's on the last year of his contract, so they have to re-sign him. They have to come up with a new contract. If they don't, there's the possibility he holds out, and there's the possibility that he's gone. If he's gone, then it's a horrible trade. If they can't re-sign him, it's a horrible trade. And Adam Peters, when he made that trade, was thinking to himself, we went to the NFC Championship game. I'm trading for Laramie Tunsil. I'm trading for Deebo Samuel. Marshawn Lattimore is going to be fully healed next season for the 2025 season. I'm going to have Jaden Daniels, who's going to have a year under his belt. He's going to be that much better. So I don't care that I'm trading away a second-round draft pick for Laramie Tunsil because we're going to be back in the championship game, if not the Super Bowl, because that's who we are now. And that second-round pick is going to be a very low round, second-round draft pick. Well, you know what? It's not now. And they would kill to have the 7th pick in the second round, and they don't have that now. And if they don't sign Laramie Tunsil to an extension, that becomes a really, really bad trade, and that's on Peters. And I jumped around a little bit there, but that kind of goes back to Peters not, we're trying to accelerate the process, and that doesn't work.
There it is. That's the key.
And I'm not saying, look, Tunsil had a great year. I don't think you can argue otherwise.
Does he deserve to get a new contract with us?
Would I like to see the team re-sign him? Yes.
Yeah. I do too.
Can I see the numbers? I mean, look, we went through this with Terry last year.
Yeah, I know. That's the scary thing.
Yeah.
Right. What is the acceptable amount for a tackle? There's a chance that Tunsil could be. He won't be first team All Pro, but there's a chance he could be second team All Pro this year. And so, what's the acceptable amount to pay him? We know Washington has a lot of cap space. Granted, they're also going to have to sign 20 new players. Okay. Or 25 new players. But can they afford to let him go? I mean, to not extend him? They don't have draft picks to restock him, to replace him. Not this year, anyway.
That's right.
So, but we have a whole offseason to talk about these things.
Yeah.
I guess
we got nothing else to talk about.
Well,
I mean, we don't need to talk about playoffs or the Super Bowl or did anyone even make the Pro Bowl on our team?
Tressway.
Oh, hey, the punter.
Yeah, he did.
Who's a free agent, by the way, now.
Oh no. He's got
So there's another, like we all love Tressway, and
yep.
I guess we're gonna have to see whether or not he comes back. But maybe we put a bow on this. We've ended the season. Look, the team went, as we said earlier, from 12-5 to 5-12. We all agree we picked the wrong season to start a podcast.
Yep.
And but we, the three of us, made it through a season. We made it through the preseason and the season. And I said this earlier on. I'm surprised. I'm surprised we got as far as we did. I'm surprised we made it through the end of the season at times, because it's hard to do something like this when your team is horrible.
Yep.
So I appreciate the two of you sticking around and doing this with me, because this has made the season that much more enjoyable, quite honestly. Talking to you all on a regular basis about the team and making fun of each other and all of that. So I say thank you to the two of you. Forget anybody who may or may not be watching, but I do appreciate the two of you all doing this with me.
I appreciate it too. I agree. It's been fun it's been a miserable season, but to I don't know, commiserate each week.
Yeah.
Or 12 of the weeks anyway.
It definitely was it made the season a little better, but the bar was pretty low this year. So
It made it easier for me as a fan to get through the season, to be able to talk it out with people who didn't always necessarily agree with me and would make fun of me for my opinions and well, pretty much anything else. So that does make it easier to get through the season when your team is one of the worst teams in the league. And we've got an off season to talk about what's going to happen with replacing coordinators and the draft. And I mean, we had so much fun with the draft last year. I mean, that's kind of when we got started with everything. And you know, our key analysis of the draft combine that we did. But if we look ahead, as we say this, you know, it's January 7th. It's a Wednesday. You know, you look ahead, and you know the scouting combine starts February 23rd, and in March 9th is when teams can contact and enter into contract negotiations with free agents. The league year starts March 11th. So, you know, in 2 months, the new league year, since we don't really care about the Super Bowl or anything like that, since, you know, Washington's not playing. You know, we got 2 months before the new league year starts, and go into the draft and things like that. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with this team. You know, like I said, Dan Quinn's going to be around for the year, and we'll see who he brings in as his coordinators, and we'll see what happens with Jaden. Can he stay healthy and all that fun stuff? And we'll have plenty to talk about. But is there anything you all want to wrap up with the season? Any final thoughts on the season? Mike, we'll go to you first. Any final thoughts on the season? You know, either the team, the record, the league, doing this, anything you want to end with?
No, I want to move forward. I want to move past this season. I want to put it behind me. I'm over it.
Joe, then it's your turn.
I can't believe the season's over already, to be honest with you. I mean, this just flew by this year. It felt like it was much faster than it's been in the past. And I don't know if it was because we were so bad or what, but maybe doing this podcast made it more enjoyable, like you guys were saying. And I'm already waiting for the new season. Let's get to August already and start the new season.
Screw the draft, screw training camp. Let's get to the start of the season. Well, yeah, Joe, I'm right there with you. As I already said, I think doing this has made it a little bit more fun this season, and easier to get through when your team only wins 5 games. So, I guess with that, we'll put a bow on this show. And you know, normally this is the time where I say until next week when we talk about the loss too. But I guess well, I'll tell you what. This is how we'll end this. Let's hold on. Let me pull this up so I have the right information here. So the playoffs, we got games this weekend. We'll go game by game real quick. You got the Rams at Carolina. Who's going to win?
Rams.
I'm hoping Carolina wins, but it'll probably be the Rams.
I'm hoping
Green
Carolina
Bay.
wins too.
Okay. Green Bay at Chicago.
Green Bay.
I
Mike?
think Chicago.
I think Chicago's going to win, but I'm pulling for Green Bay. Buffalo at Jacksonville.
Buffalo.
Buffalo is favored in that. Oh, and by the way, the Rams are favored by 10.5, and Green Bay's favored by 1.5. Buffalo's favored by 1.5. I think Buffalo's going to win that as well. San Francisco at Philly.
San Fran.
Yeah.
Screw Philly.
I think Philly's going to win, and they are favored by 4.5. Chargers at New England.
I think New England's been on a run. I
I
think they've got it.
yeah, I agree.
I think it's more that the Chargers aren't that good. The Patriots. You're right. The Patriots have been on a run, but I don't think the Chargers are really that good. And I think New England. I think they pull it off. They're favored by 3.5. And then the last game of the first week of playoffs, Houston at Pittsburgh, and I will tell you that Houston is favored by 3.
I'm going Houston on that one.
I'm going Houston. Joe?
I think the Steelers might have it.
Okay.
Where are they playing? Are they playing in Houston?
It's in Pittsburgh.
Oh, it's in Pittsburgh. Yeah, I think
Pittsburgh's the division winner because Baltimore couldn't hit a 40-yard field goal.
those damn kickers.
Sounds familiar, don't it? Those damn kickers. And that is how we end this show. So thanks always for those who watch and tune in and followed us all season long. We do appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have, and we look forward to you all tuning in next season and all that fun stuff. So until next week, bye.
So yeah.
Bye.
You're entitled to your opinion, even though it's wrong.